I don't remember the joke. Just the way my girlfriend threw her head back laughing, and how her roommate's hand brushed mine when she reached for the sugar. It wasn't even a deliberate touch. At least, that's what I keep telling myself. But her fingers lingered a second too long. Soft, unsure, like she'd realized too late that I was real. We were sitting around the kitchen table in their apartment. Old brick walls, the smell of cinnamon and burnt toast. My girlfriend, Mia, was talking about some office story, waving her fork like it was a conductor's baton. Her roommate, Claire, listened more than she spoke. Mid-40s, sharp eyes that never seemed to miss a detail. She had this quiet gravity, not loud, not dramatic, just steady. The kind that makes a room tilt toward her without anyone noticing. I was laughing genuinely. It was one of those easy mornings that don't feel like they're leading anywhere. But then she looked at me, Claire, with that small, unreadable smile. And something shifted. She poured more coffee. The way she moved, deliberate, precise, sleeves rolled just enough to show a faint scar near her wrist, made it impossible not to notice her hands. I tried not to. God, I really tried. You take sugar? She asked. I nodded. She slid the jar toward me, fingers brushing mine again. Static. Maybe from the carpet, maybe not. I couldn't tell if she felt it too, but she didn't look away. Thanks, I said, a little too quiet. Mia didn't notice. She was still talking, something about her boss's terrible tie. Claire just sipped her coffee, eyes somewhere else, or maybe right on me. It's hard to remember clearly. What I do remember is how the air changed, heavier somehow, like the pause between two people about to say the wrong thing. I tried to join back into the conversation, laugh again, keep things normal. But every time she spoke, I caught the sound of her voice, low, calm, edged with something that made me feel older and younger at the same time. There was no flirting, no words out of place, just an awareness. When Mia got up to grab something from her room, the silence that followed felt almost intentional. I glanced at Claire. She was tracing the rim of her cup with one finger, lost in thought. The window light hit her hair, streaks of silver showing through the brown. She looked, I don't know, content. Or maybe pretending to be. You're good for her, she said after a moment. It sounded like a compliment, but the way she said it made my chest tighten. I managed. She smiled, that small, tired kind of smile that people wear when they don't believe themselves anymore. That's more than most do. Before I could answer, Mia came back, humming, holding her phone up to show a meme. We all laughed again, easy, light, surface level. But the warmth from her hand hadn't faded yet. It was still there, pulsing faintly in the space between memory and skin. When I left that morning, Claire stood by the counter, rinsing a glass. She said, "See you around," like it meant nothing. I said, "Yeah," but the word stuck somewhere in my throat. I walked out with Mia, sunlight catching the edge of the hallway mirror. I looked at our reflection, her leaning into me, smiling, my hand on her shoulder, and behind her, Claire, watching from the doorway. Not staring, just there. Later that night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. That brief touch, that half second of silence. I kept replaying it, like a line from a song that never really finishes. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was everything I wasn't supposed to notice. The next time I saw Claire, it wasn't planned. Mia had texted me last minute, said she'd be late from work, and asked if I could swing by to help fix the old shelf in their living room. Claire opened the door instead. She looked surprised, though she hit it fast. Her hair was tied up this time, glasses hanging low on her nose. The faint smell of rain drifted in from the open window behind her. "She's not here," she said. "Yeah, she told me. Said you needed help with the shelf." Her eyebrows lifted, amused. I didn't know I needed help. I shrugged, holding up the screwdriver. "Apparently, I've been volunteered." She stepped aside, motioning me in. The room was different in the evening light, softer, quieter. A record played low in the background, some old jazz number. The shelf leaned awkwardly against the wall, half assembled, with screws scattered across the floor like small silver mistakes. She knelt down to pick one up. I noticed the faint tremor in her hand, subtle, but real. "Long day?" I asked. Her laugh was small, dry. "Every day's long lately." She glanced up at me, as if realizing she'd said too much. You know how it is. I didn't, but I nodded anyway. We worked side by side, mostly in silence. The kind that isn't uncomfortable, but not quite peaceful either. I handed her a screw. She brushed her thumb over my knuckles by accident, and we both froze. She looked away first. Sorry, she murmured. No, you're fine. The words came out too quickly, too soft. I tried to focus on the wood instead, the smell of varnish, the steady rhythm of her breathing. Every now and then, I caught her watching me when she thought I wasn't looking. When the last panel was in place, she sat back on her heels, exhaling like she'd been holding her breath all week. There was a streak of dust on her wrist. Without thinking, I reached out and brushed it away. Her pulse jumped under my fingertips. She didn't move, just stared at me, not with surprise, but with the kind of quiet you get before you decide to do something you'll regret. You're kind, she said finally, voice low. Too kind, maybe. I smiled, though I didn't feel like it. You make that sound like a flaw. It can be, she whispered, eyes still on my hand. The record skipped once, breaking the moment. She stood abruptly, grabbing the empty mug on the table. Tea. Sure. She filled 2 cups, her back to me. The sound of the kettle filled the silence, steady, almost soothing. When she turned around, her expression had reset, calm, polite, unreadable again. But as she handed me the mug, her fingers brushed mine, intentionally this time. No words, just that tiny, deliberate contact that said everything neither of us dared to. The kind that stays long after it ends. It started raining halfway through dinner. One of those slow, deliberate rains that sound like they're thinking about whether to stop. Mia had texted again, caught up at work, too tired to come home, and Claire insisted we shouldn't waste the food she'd already made. It's just pasta, she said, but there was wine on the table and 2 plates set like she'd expected someone anyway. The storm outside pressed against the windows, blurring the world to gray. Inside, the apartment smelled like basil and old books. She moved around the kitchen in that same quiet rhythm, sleeves rolled, hair falling loose, eyes somewhere distant. I tried to keep it light. You always cook this much for 2? Not always, she said. Some habits die slower than others. There was something in her tone I didn't ask about. Regret, maybe, or memory. Either way, I just nodded. We ate mostly in silence. Every sound, the clink of a fork, the hum of the fridge, the soft rumble of thunder, felt too loud. I watched her stare into her glass, tracing the rim again, just like that morning. It was becoming her tell. She caught me looking. You think too much, she said softly. Is that bad? Depends what you're thinking about. Her eyes lingered, unblinking. The air between us changed, again, thicker, fragile. I wanted to ask what she meant, but my phone buzzed on the table. It was Mia. A picture of her desk at the office with the caption still alive, just barely. Claire's gaze flicked to the screen, then back to me. You should answer. I will, I said. But I didn't move. She looked at me for a long moment, then let out a small laugh. Not mocking, just tired. You shouldn't make people wait on you like that. Neither should you, I said without thinking. Her lips parted, but no words came. The thunder rolled again, closer this time. The power flickered once, twice, then steadied. She stood, walked to the counter, and grabbed the candle from the windowsill. Just in case, she murmured, lighting it. The flame threw a soft gold across her face, highlighting the lines near her eyes, the curve of her mouth, the faint scar on her wrist. I don't know why I stood too. Maybe because she was too close, or because she wasn't moving away. Claire, don't, she said quietly, almost pleading. Please. I stopped. For a second, neither of us breathed. The storm hit harder, rain rattling the glass like applause for something we'd managed not to do. Then her phone rang, sharp, jarring, cutting straight through the moment. She turned her back quickly, voice steady but thin. Hey, Mark? No, it's fine. Just dinner. Yeah, I'll call you tomorrow. Her ex, maybe, or someone who still thought they were allowed to call. I stood there with the candlelight flickering between us, trying not to watch the way her shoulders stiffened. When she hung up, she didn't turn around. I should clean up, she said. I nodded, forcing a breath. I'll go. But I didn't move right away. My hand brushed the table edge. Hers rested there a heartbeat later, near mine, not touching this time. Close enough to feel the heat. Close enough to know what almost happened. I hadn't seen her for a few days after that night. Mia said Claire was keeping to herself, which sounded harmless enough, but I could tell something had shifted. The air between us, even when she wasn't there, carried her silence like a shadow. It was late when I finally went back to their apartment. Mia had left early for a weekend trip with friends, and Claire opened the door before I could even knock twice. Like she'd been expecting someone, though not necessarily me. She didn't ask why I was there. Just stepped aside, wordless, and let me in. The living room lights were dim. A half-finished puzzle sat on the table, untouched for days. I noticed her mug beside it. Cold, the tea stained around the edges. She looked tired in a way that went deeper than lack of sleep. "You shouldn't come here when she's not around," she said quietly. "I didn't come for that," I replied. Her mouth twitched, almost a smile. "Then what did you come for?" I opened my mouth, but nothing came. She turned away, gathering papers that didn't need gathering, straightening things that were already straight. "Claire," she stopped. Didn't turn. "Don't say it," she whispered. "I'm not even sure what it is," I said. "That's the problem." Her voice cracked slightly, and that did something to me, more than if she'd yelled. I took a step closer. The space between us felt narrow, crowded by everything we hadn't said. "You keep looking at me like you expect me to explain something," she said. "But I don't have an explanation. I'm too old for this kind of mess." I laughed under my breath, but it wasn't funny. "You think this is just mess? What else could it be?" Her words came out sharp, but her hands were shaking. She noticed it, too, quickly stuffed them in her pockets. "You could have ignored it," she went on, quieter now. "Pretended it was nothing. You're young. You'll forget this, whatever this is." "Do you really believe that?" She met my eyes then, long enough for me to see the fear beneath all that composure. "I need to," she said. For a long time, neither of us spoke. The rain outside had stopped, but the sound of dripping from the gutter filled the silence, slow, steady, impossible to tune out. "I keep telling myself we didn't cross a line," she said finally. "But then I see the way you look at me, and I can't even tell where the line is anymore." I swallowed hard. "Maybe there isn't one." Her breath caught, just once, and that was enough to undo whatever armor she had left. She looked away first, whispering almost to herself, "You don't know what you're doing." "Maybe not," I said, "but neither do you." That made her look back at me, eyes bright, mouth trembling like she wanted to argue but couldn't. The silence between us stretched, heavy and alive. When she finally spoke again, her voice was small, the kind of small that comes after holding something in too long. "I don't remember the last time someone made me feel seen." And I had no answer for that, only the sound of my own heart, breaking and beating at the same time. It was late, and I didn't. But I went anyway. The apartment was quiet when I arrived. No music, no TV, no background noise to make it easier. Claire sat at the kitchen table, an open box in front of her. Old photos, yellowed at the edges. The kind you don't leave out unless you're trying to remember something, or forget it for good. "I didn't mean to drag you into this," she said as I stepped closer. I was cleaning, and then, well, I stopped pretending. She handed me a photo without looking up. A man, a little older than me, maybe mid-30s, standing on a dock, sunlight hitting his face. Claire was beside him, younger, smiling in a way I hadn't seen from her before. "Your husband?" I asked. "Was," she said. "Car accident. 12 years ago." Her tone wasn't dramatic, just steady, worn out from being told too many times. I set the photo down carefully. "I'm sorry. You don't have to be." She reached for another picture, fingers brushing mine briefly. "You just remind me of him sometimes. Not how you look, the way you listen." That hit harder than I expected. The room felt smaller suddenly. "Is that why you've been?" I stopped, not sure what word fit. "Careful," she offered. Then, quieter. "Or cruel?" I wasn't going to say that. She smiled faintly, though her eyes didn't follow. "I know. That's what makes you dangerous." She leaned back, exhaling. The candlelight flickered across her face, softening the exhaustion there. You make it too easy to forget that I'm supposed to be past all this. That people my age don't get to start over. We just learn to live with what's gone. The way she said it, matter of fact, almost gentle, made my throat tighten. Maybe that's not true, I said. Maybe starting over doesn't care how old you are. Maybe. She stared at the photo again, tracing the edge with her thumb. But the problem with starting over is that it means admitting you stopped. Neither of us spoke for a while. The refrigerator hummed softly. Rain started again outside, faint but constant, like the sound of something refusing to end. I kept his voicemail, she said suddenly. From the day he died. I couldn't delete it. She looked up at me, eyes glassy but steady. I did tonight. The words landed quietly, but I felt them in my chest. You deleted it? She nodded. I didn't want to, but it felt right. Or maybe wrong in a necessary way. I didn't know what to say, so I just stood there. Useless, maybe, but present. She reached out then, almost absently, her hand resting over mine. No hesitation this time. Her voice barely rose above a whisper. I think that's the first thing I've let go of in 12 years. The silence after that was unbearable and wholly all at once. And even though nothing more happened, no kiss, no confession, something had shifted. I could feel it in her trembling hand, in the way she didn't pull away. Like we'd crossed into something we couldn't name and maybe never would. The next morning, she called instead of texting. Her voice was calm, almost too even, the kind of calm people wear when they've made a decision they haven't fully accepted yet. Could you stop by? She asked. Just for a minute. When I arrived, the apartment felt different. No music, no rain, no clutter. Just light. Pale, morning light sliding across the floor like it belonged there. She'd opened the windows, the first time I'd ever seen them open. Claire was sitting on the couch, hair down, wearing the same faded blue sweater she'd had on the day we met. There was coffee waiting, 2 mugs, black for her, milk for me. Small things that shouldn't mean anything, but did. I didn't sleep much, she said as I sat down. Me neither. She gave a faint smile. I think we've been avoiding the same thing. I didn't answer. I didn't have to. She looked at me then, really looked, not the cautious glances or half-guarded stares I'd gotten before, but something clear, unfiltered. It made me want to look away and stay forever at the same time. I told myself this was just comfort, she said. A phase. Some emotional overlap I'd eventually outgrow. But it's not that simple, is it? I shook my head. No. Her hand rested on her knee, fingers twitching slightly, a nervous rhythm. I wanted to reach for it, but the space between us still mattered. So I waited. I can't promise anything, she said after a long silence. I don't even know what this is supposed to be. But when you're here, I don't feel like I'm waiting for my life to start again. Her words hit soft, but deep, like something that had been sitting just behind both of us all along. I don't need promises, I said quietly. Just this. Whatever this is. The corner of her mouth lifted, almost a laugh. That's the most honest thing anyone's said to me in years. We sat there in the silence that followed, not awkward this time, not loaded. Just still. The world outside moved without us. Cars passing, someone's dog barking, the faint sound of a kettle whistling in another apartment. When she finally leaned in, it wasn't to kiss me. Her forehead touched mine, light as breath. A simple, human gesture, exhausted and warm and entirely real. Her hand found mine then, not searching for it, just arriving there naturally. I don't want to ruin you, she whispered. You won't, I said. You already didn't. She laughed softly, the kind of laugh that carries a little grief with it. For a long while, we stayed like that, holding still in the quiet morning light, saying nothing else. There was no music, no confession, no promise of forever. Just 2 people who had finally stopped pretending they weren't already somewhere they shouldn't be. And in that stillness, for once, it didn't feel wrong. It just felt inevitable. Looking back, it's strange how something so quiet could change everything. There wasn't a dramatic ending, no grand confession, no cinematic goodbye. Just time doing what it does best, softening edges, making sense of what hurt, and turning chaos into memory. She taught me that love isn't always about staying. Sometimes it's about seeing someone completely, their fear, their strength, their mistakes, and still holding that version of them with kindness. She showed me that connection doesn't need to be claimed to be real. It can live quietly in the spaces between what was said and what was never meant to be. I used to think love had to look like certainty, like choosing someone and never looking back. But she was a different kind of truth. She was the reminder that love can also be a lesson, a mirror, a moment that changes how you see yourself. That sometimes, the people who don't stay leave behind the gentlest kind of permanence. Now, when I think of her, it's not with longing. It's with calm, a kind of warmth that doesn't fade, even when it's no longer burning. I still carry her, not as a wound, but as a reminder that love, in its quietest form, doesn't end when it's over. If this story made you feel something, let me know in the comments. Would you want more stories like this?